Hey there, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live, celebration-focused Facebook Live. This week I will be focusing on the Calming Camellia stamp set, and I'll talk a little bit more about this stamp set in a minute. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and every Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time I go live with a crafting project for you. And for the month of January and February, every Friday, it will be celebration focused. So this week I've chosen the Calming Camellia stamp set, which is a host set that you can earn during celebration, which runs until February 28th. You can find it on page 17 of the celebration brochure. So this is a stamp set that you can only get by placing a qualifying order of $375 or more during celebration. That's $375 in Canada. And this stamp set, it's one of our distinctive stamp sets, and it's beautiful. So I'm going to create two projects with it today and share a couple extras at the end. Now there are several different ways that you can earn this stamp set. So $375 can seem a little intimidating. So first of all, you can place the order yourself. So if you have a really long wish list, you can order it all at the same time. And as long as your total comes to $375 or more before shipping and tax, then you will automatically get this stamp set. The other thing that you can do is if you have a few stamping friends and they have a few things that they want to order, you can collect a few orders from friends and you can be the host. If those orders total more than $375, then you will qualify for that host set. And that's in addition to the additional Stampin' Rewards that you get for that level of an order. The other thing that you can do is if you were a Paper Pumpkin subscriber. Now we were notified earlier this week that Paper Pumpkin prices are going up beginning March 1st. So if you're a Paper Pumpkin subscriber and you go month to month, something you may want to consider is purchasing a 12-month Paper Pumpkin subscription, which is $300. I think you end up getting 1 month for free. You'll get all of the celebration perks. And then if there's a few other things that you want to order, then you can tack those onto the order. It'll bring you up to $375. And then you can qualify for this Calming Camellia stamp set for free, as well as additional host Stampin' Rewards and celebration rewards. And you get to avoid that price increase on March 1st. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, just let me know. All right, so this stamp set, like I said, it's one of our distinctive stamp sets. So when you stamp it, it has so much depth to it. It looks like there's different layers to the stamp, which is really, really fun. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, actually, before we get started, I want to point out, again, I forgot to do the draw for these. Last week, I focused on the Friendly Hello bundle from Celebration, and I always do a draw for the projects that I create each week. So 2 lucky winners who have commented on last week's video will win these cards. So I will announce the winners later on today. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Set this aside, pull out my pieces that I need. All right, so as far as measurements, I have a mint macaron card base, just a standard size card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. We're just going to fold that in half. I've got a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white cardstock. That's going to be for the inside. We'll set that aside. And I've got a 3 by 5.5 inch piece of white. We're going to stamp on that. Got 2 strips of Just Jade cardstock. Now I love these 2 colors together, Mint Macaron and Just Jade. Just Jade is one of our 2020 to 2022 in colors, and it's one of the colors that's going to retire at the end of this catalog, which is towards the end of April. So if you have this color of ink and paper, you may want to make sure that you have the ink refill as well, and any coordinating products that go along with it. So definitely if you have the ink pad, you want to make sure that you have the ink refill before it retires so that you can continue to use that. You may want to pick up an extra package of cardstock And then any kind of embellishments or ribbon or anything that coordinates with it, just so that you can continue to use that in your crafting after those colors have retired. So these two strips measure 5.5 by about 3/4 of an inch. We're only going to see a little bit, so it doesn't really matter how big they are. And then I have a piece of vellum that I've gone ahead and I've die cut using the Tasteful Labels dies. I used this die right here. So it does have some stitching on it. Let's see, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but it does have some stitching detail around the edges, which I love. And then I've got a baker's twine bow, because you know I can't create a card without baker's twine, right? And some of the Just Jade gold braided ribbon. And then I've got a few little in color jewels that I'm going to add. So those are all my pieces. So let's go ahead and get stamping. Actually, let me just say hello to people who are watching. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Elaine. Good morning, Susan. And I can see that there's lots of other people watching as well. Remember, when you comment, you participate in the conversation, you get the chance to win one of the projects that I create. All right, so for this first card, we're going to use this leaf image, and we're going to use Just Jade ink, and we're going to stamp this leaf 3 times. So I'm going to ink it up, and I'm just using a gentle touch just to make sure it's well inked, and I'm going to stamp it in the center of this white piece, or as close to the center as I can get it. Okay, and I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure. I'm not going to apply too much pressure. And look how beautiful that is. So pretty. And then I'm going to ink it up again. I'm going to stamp it again to the right. Good morning, Brenda. I haven't heard from you for ages. Good morning, Elaine. Good morning, Carol. Happy Friday. And then I'm going to stamp it again on this side. Okay. And while we've got our stamp out, let's also stamp it in the middle. So our card is going to be a landscape card. And let's stamp it kind of in this corner. And then we'll do the envelope as well. This time we'll do it in this corner. All right. Now we're done with this color. We'll set this aside. And we're going to bring in, oh, you know what I don't have is I need a narrow strip for my greeting. Let me just grab a piece of white. Let's see here. Go to my scrap bin. Grab a couple pieces just in case. Okay, I'll see if that's wide enough. So my crafting space is in the basement, and my daughter's room is down here. And I don't know how many times she's come down since I started this Facebook Live. Oh my goodness, it's very distracting. Okay. So I'm going to take this You Make Me Smile, which is also from the stamp set, and I've got some Memento ink, and I'm hoping this is wide enough. This was just a scrap that I had. It's probably about 1/2 inch, and that's crooked. Let's try it again. Let's see if I can get right above it here. That's better. Okay. And we're going to trim this down, so it doesn't matter how long it is. Set that aside, and I'm going to work on assembling my card. Okay, so now these 2 strips, I'm going to distress the edges just a little bit. So I'm going to take my paper snips, open them up, and just distress this. Now, if you've been around, or if you've been with Stampin' Up! For a while, you may have our old distressing tool that we carried. You can use that, but paper snips work really well if you don't have that. You just have to be careful because our paper snips are very sharp. Okay, so we're just roughing this up just a little bit, and then we'll get rid of this paper dust. Okay, and then we're going to add some adhesive to the bottom here and add this so that you just see about 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to do the same to the top. And you can see that it doesn't go quite as far, so I'll fix that in a minute. I lined this up with this edge, so I'm going to line this one up, make sure it's lined up properly, and that way if the other end happens to be just a little bit short, like it is there, can you see how it doesn't go quite to the edge? I can just trim that off. I'm going to grab my guillotine paper cutter for that, because I find that that paper cutter works better when I'm just trimming off a sliver. So I'm just going to slide this in here and trim that down. And I might end up having to trim my card base just ever so slightly as well, just because I had to do that. Okay, I find that each one of my paper trimmers is just has a slightly different measurement. So depending on which paper trimmer I use, sometimes I need to do that. All right, so this is going to go on here just flat, right in the center, so that we've got an even border at the top and the bottom. And I'll line it up with the left-hand side, and that way if I do need to trim, I can just trim the right-hand side just a little bit, and it looks okay. Looks good. All right, now we're going to start our little cluster. So I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive in the center, and we're going to put our vellum label shape down. And then I'm going to add another little strip of adhesive, and I'm going to take my ribbon. Good morning, Lana. Happy Friday. And I'm going to fold it like this and add that on there. And then I've got my baker's twine bow. Yesterday I was making cards for my team to congratulate them, which I'll show you the design at the end of the video, because I did use this stamp set. And I used up 3 spools of baker's twine in different colors. I use so much baker's twine. Seriously, I need a big, huge roll, especially of white. I use so much white. All right, so we're just going to add that bow right on there. And then we'll take our greeting and we're going to angle cut the edges. So let's do it this way, like that. And then we'll use some dimensionals, which, did I pull those out? Oh, here they are. And I'm going to put one on this side, one on this side, because it's going to go over top of the knot. So I don't need a dimensional in the middle. We're just going to put that on here like this. Make sure it looks straight. We'll trim these ends just a little bit. And then we've got our gems. No, these gems are from the 2021-2023 in color jewels, and I am using the soft succulent. So even though this is mint macaron and just jade, the soft succulent, you can see, are very close in color. So you can get away with using them for any one of those 3 colors. So we'll put one here, put one up here, and then one over here. There we go. Good morning, Lori. Welcome. Okay, let's go ahead and add our inside layer. We are playing with the Calming Camellia stamp set today. So now we've got our inside layer, and there is our first card using that beautiful distinctive stamp. All right, it's beautiful, but wait until you see the next one. The next one's my favorite. All right, so let's set this aside and we'll pull out what we need for the next one. All right. Okay, so this time, of course I have baker's twine. We are doing a card base. This time it's going to be portrait, and I've got a piece of fresh freesia cardstock, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. So I just cut half a piece of 8 1/2 by 11. I just cut it in a different direction. So I cut it up and down rather than side to side. It's still going to be the same size card. And then we've got a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece for the inside. We'll set that aside. And I forgot to pull out my measurements. Let me measure this here. I've got another piece of white that measures 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. We're going to stamp on this piece, and then I've got 2 pieces of DSP. Now this is from the Friendly Hello DSP, which is also a celebration product. It's the one that I focused on last week. You can use any DSP if you're replicating this card. So this piece measures 1 1/4 by 3 1/2, and this piece measures 1/2 inch by 3 1/2. Okay, and we're going to take this piece and we're going to tear it. All right, and then we'll set it aside. Now I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of paper because I'm going to create my own patterned paper with this beautiful floral image. And we're going to use fresh freesia ink. I think I forgot to mention where this label shape is from, but I'll talk to you about it in a minute when I go to use it. All right, so I'm inking this up. Again, not pushing too hard. And I'm going to start by stamping one kind of right here. This is the one, I'm going to see this part of the card. I want that to kind of be my focal point. So I want the biggest flower to be in that lower right corner. And look how beautiful that is. Good morning, Auntie Judy. Okay, and now we're going to kind of move it around and stamp it in a couple different areas. So I don't want it to go in the same direction each time. So I'm going to kind of position, let's see, let's do this one this way. And this one we'll do like this. Actually, no, let's do like that. So I want to fill in quite a bit of the space here, but I don't want them to overlap. So I'm just trying to see what part of the flower will fit nicely into these spots. That should work right there. Okay. All right, let's do our envelope and the inside of our card. Isn't that beautiful? So pretty, and it's so simple to do. Those distinctive stamps are so amazing. All right, so the inside of our card, we'll just add a partial flower right here. And then we'll do the same thing for our envelope. Just add a partial flower in the corner. Oh my gosh, it's just so pretty. I'm not normally a flower fan. I'm not drawn to flowers, but this stamp set is really stunning. Okay, so as pretty as this is, we could leave it just like this, but we're going to step it up a little bit. We are now going to emboss it. So I'm going to use the Time Worn Type embossing folder. I'm just going to position this in here so that it's straight because there are words on here. And then I'll bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss here. So this is a 3D embossing folder. So I've got my platform number 1, my embossing folder, my 3D embossing folder with the cardstock in between, and then I'm going to use platform number 4. And just feed that through. Set aside, pull that out, and then look how stunning this is. With that added texture on there, it's just amazing. It steps it up from beautiful to just, it's a wow for sure. And that's something that I don't do often enough. When I stamp on a background, I think, okay, well, that's great. It's great just the way it is. But then if you add that extra layer of that texture, it adds so much to it. I wish you guys could see it in person. It's so pretty. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over, add a little bit of adhesive on the top part of this. I know, it's so beautiful, Christine. Okay, and I just want a tiny little bit of those stripes peeking out from the top here, just to pull in a few other colors, because this is going to be a pretty monochromatic card. There's a lot of fresh freesia, which there's nothing wrong with that. The fresh freesia is a beautiful color. That's going to go on the top just like that. And then I'm just going to take my fingers and add a little bit more texture by kind of curling up that torn edge, just to create a little bit more texture. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take a 1/16 inch handheld circle punch, and I'm just going to notch, and I'm going to notch right where the top part of the fresh freesia DSP ends. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to wrap my twine around this piece of cardstock, and this will hold it in place and save it from riding up and down. Okay, so just a partial circle, and let me see if I can put it in a position so that you guys can see it a little bit better. Oh, you can't see that at all. Let's try it on white. Oh, it's really hard to see. But it's just, it goes down and then dips in. So it's not a full circle. I just needed to notch that just ever so slightly. All right, now I'm turning it upside down because when I tie my bows, my ends always end up going up. So if I turn it upside down, they will end up going down when I flip my card around. So I'm going to position this in those little notches. And I'm just going to slide this down a little bit more. I want my bow to be in the upper right. No, the upper left when I turn it around. So kind of right there. Okay, so we've got that bow. Now this label shape is from the Ornate Frames dies. So this is a set that's from the annual catalog. It's a set that we've carried for a number of years. It was released first, I think 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. It wasn't this past year, maybe the previous year. And it coordinated with a Halloween set. I never did buy the Halloween set because I don't make a lot of Halloween projects, but these frames are fabulous because there's so many different shapes and sizes. So I used this one, which has that beautiful stitching around the edges. And we're going to take the greeting that says, "It's the little things that make life great," and some Memento ink. And we're going to ink this up. And I'm going to stamp it in the center. Let's make sure this is straight. Let's hope that that's straight. Oh, well, it's not very low, is it? You know what? I think I'm going to have to do that again because you'll see in a minute why I need to do that again. Let's see. I grabbed a second piece of scrap paper. Let's see if this will fit on here. Yes, it will. Okay. Let's stamp and then we'll die cut. which I always suggest doing. If you're doing this at home, don't die cut first. Stamp first, and then die cut. Okay, because now I can position the stamp where it needs to go. So I could have flipped this over. However, on these stitching dies, these dies with stitching, it does look a little bit different on the back. So I'm just going to toss that piece, and we'll bring back our Stamp and Cut and Emboss. Gotta grab my other plates here. Move this out of the way. Okay. So we'll just line this up. I want there to be a little bit of space at the top, and you'll see why when we go to add it to our card. So I do want it to be centered left to right. I think that looks good. Put my plate on there and hope that it doesn't move. Okay. That looks better. All right. So now we're going to take this, we're going to add some adhesive to the back, and we're going to tuck it right underneath that torn edge, just like that. So you can see how, because the other one was stamped so close to the top, it wouldn't have worked quite as nicely as this one does. Let's just make our bow just a little bit bigger. There we go. And then we're going to take this, and this is going to get popped up with dimensionals and then put on our base. So everything that we have on the front on this layer is already flat. So we can add some dimensionals to this back piece, and it won't cost anything extra to mail. So do any of you already own this stamp set? Have you played with it yet? Of course, if you don't own this stamp set, you could take these card designs and use a different floral image or a different leaf image for the first card, for sure. Just like any of the other projects that I share, you don't necessarily have to own what I'm using in order to take inspiration from those projects. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Okay, the last thing that we need to do to the front of this card is we're going to take, again, some of these in color jewels. This time we're going to use the Fresh Freesia ones. And we're going to add one here and one here. So these two cards are actually the card kits that I'm giving away this week when you place a $60 order or more from my online store using the February host code, which I will post in the description. So you'll get all the pre-cut pieces to create these two cards, or you can choose some of our ombre. I'll show you in a minute here. There we go. There's our second card. So this week you have a choice. Each week it's going to change for the month of February because it's my birthday month. So you have a choice with a $60 order placed between February 1st and February, I think it's 7th. You can either choose these two card kits. So the pre-cut supplies, you get all of the cardstock, the ribbon, the gems, all of it to create these two cards, or you can choose a package of our ombre glimmer paper, which will be a 6 by 12 little sampling of this beautiful ombre glimmer paper. All right, and that's with a $60 order. And then next week it's going to change. It'll be something a little bit different, so you can watch for that. Yeah, I think that's it for today. So remember to comment on this post, whether you're seeing it as a replay on Facebook, whether you're watching the tail end of the live, or if you watch it on the replay on YouTube. Just comment on the video, and next week I will draw 2 lucky winners to win these cards. All right, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fabulous weekend, and have a chance to get crafty. All right, take care. Bye, guys.